On this episode of the podcast, we take a look at the movie A Beautiful Boy, written by Felix von Groeningen, Luke Davies, David and Nick Sheff, and directed by Felix von Groeningen, starring Steve Carell, Timothée Chalamet, Maura, Tierney, and Amy Ryan. Welcome to He Said, She Said Movie Reviews. This is the podcast where a happily married couple with similar but different movie tastes take a quick look at the movies, helping you make the right decision before your next movie. I'm your host, Tim.
And I'm April.
So we saw A Beautiful Boy, and there was trailers before this movie, but we've already talked about those trailers with you, so we have no snappy intro line or no trailers to give you, so we'll go right into our podcast of A Beautiful Boy.
Alrighty, the storyline is based on the best-selling pair of memoirs from father and son David and Nick Sheff. Beautiful Boy chronicles the heartbreaking and inspiring experience of survival, relapse, and recovery in a family with addiction over many years.
This is a movie directed by Felix von Groeningen. He brought us The Broken Circle Breakdown, The Misfortunates, and With Friends Like These. This movie was also written by Felix and Luke Davies, who brought us the movie Lion, Life and Candy. Lion was a great movie.
Yes, it was.
But it was also taken from the memoirs of David Sheff and Nick Sheff. Beautiful Boy by David Sheff and Tweak by Nick Sheff. Great cast in this movie. We had Steve Carell playing David Sheff, Timothée Chalamet as Nick Sheff, and Maura Tierney as Karen Barber, and Amy Ryan as Vicky Sheff.
All right, this movie ran 120 minutes. It needed to, I think, to really show the storyline over the years. So that was fine for me.
Yeah, this was a really interesting movie, and you know, it's called Beautiful Boy, but it was also a very beautiful movie. I thought it was really well shot, had beautiful cinematography. This takes place in Northern California, on the Northern California coast, somewhere I would think up by Dillon's Beach or somewhere up in that area. They were on the beach a lot and then headed down to San Francisco a lot. It had a really tough tone and theme. It's all about drug addiction and how it affects more than just the one person, but the whole family.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
it's, I always, you know, we talk about this a lot, in our world today with so many addiction issues, especially with our young people and our young adults. And for me, that's just watching that path of destruction is just truly painful, because once it starts like that, it's very hard to get a hold of it.
There was really phenomenal acting in this movie. Steve Carell, who played the father, David Sheff, I love seeing Steve playing in movies that aren't comedy roles. I love seeing him in dramatic roles.
Yeah, his range is great.
He's got great range, and it was funny because I was thinking about this movie and what else I'd like to see Steve Carell do, and I was thinking I'd like to see him do an action movie. I don't really think he could pull an action movie off, but who knows? But I was also thinking I'd love to see him as an antagonist in the movie. And then I realized that he was the antagonist in Foxcatcher. So he's already done that. So he's just, but I'll tell you, the guy who played his son, Nick, Timothée Chalamet.
He's great. He was so good in Lady Bird.
Oh, this kid.
And Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah, this kid is phenomenal. He is a great actor.
Yes.
He really sold to me a drug addicted young man, and wow, powerful performance by Timothée.
Yeah, and I think that, Tim, we'd both agree that, you know, we learned a lot just watching this movie. It's, you know, we're blessed. We've never had this in any of our families or really our life. I got my master's in counseling, so of course you do a certain amount of hours, and I consider it a blessing to be able to have counseled a few people on addiction. I learned a lot about it, and it is difficult.
Well, I think, a lot of us don't ever experience this and have no idea what drug addiction is or how it affects people and the circle. And I think this movie really did a really good job of selling it and explaining it and showing it. I don't know if selling it is the right word, but it really demonstrated how drug addiction can affect a family, not just the person involved with the drugs, but the whole family.
Right. And I love the tough love part too, watching every single part of the cycle all the way down to the end. You know what I mean? About, he had to do what he had to do, and the father, because they had a family, right?
Right.
So I just, the whole thing, it was a very difficult movie in the fact that it's painful to watch. But I want to say that I thought the cast did a great job. And I walked away there actually thinking about people in that family circle.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that will haunt you a little bit and make you think about it days afterwards. If this movie had one hole or one place that it could have, I felt it fell a little bit in the direction and the editing. And I think you felt that way too, because the movie uses some flashback scenes that show things with when Nick was a child, and the movie jumped around a lot. And there were several times, I know you leaned over to me and said, "Is this a flashback or is this the current time?"
Yeah, anyone that knows me too knows I don't like that. I like to know exactly where I am in the storyline. But yeah, I agreed with you on that. I thought that the score was very eclectic and it moved around, but it really added to the movie.
Oh yeah, the score definitely added to the movie. Sometimes the music was haunting, but it was very appropriate to the scenes. I love the score. I'd love to pick up the soundtrack for this one. There was just some great music in there. Pace, it was slow, but it's not an action movie, so the slowness of the movie, I think, helped build to the climax at the very end of the movie and what was happening with it. I had no problem with the pace of the movie. The dialogue was great. The lines between the father and son and the family.
Yeah, and I think it was really nice to see a movie, too, about a father and son that were actually very close. Because there's a lot of movies that depict that relationship as being very dysfunctional.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of those Hollywood father-son movies, there's always issues between the father and the son. And in their relationship, Nick and David Sheff's relationship, I don't think there was really issues. It was just addiction happens, I guess.
Right. And I'm, this is on a personal note too, but I think that the greatest thing we can do for our young people today is teach them how to love themselves, how to find their own passions and interests, and encourage them to do so. You're looking at a world right now where there are so many problems because they compare themselves to other kids all the time. I mean, it's really sad. Their life should be about themselves, not about chasing after someone else. I really mean that. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
Thank you very much for that.
But anyway, so it was a good movie. It was haunting.
Definitely worth seeing. So,
yeah.
How are you going to rate this one, April?
I'm actually going to give this movie a 3. I think that it was a solid movie. I think there were great performances. I just, and it's not because the subject matter was difficult. The dialogue for me, I think that's what it is. It could have been stronger. I also felt like I walked away wanting to know more about other family members from this movie. I don't know. There's just something about it that I felt I wanted more of before I left.
Okay. When I first sat down, I really would like to give this movie a 4. I think it's a really good movie. I think it'll probably get some nods during the awards ceremony time of year. I really wanted to give it a 4.5, 4.5. But the whole thing with the editing and the time lapse and the backtracking with the time, I was really confused. Like I said, for the first half of the movie, I wasn't sure where we were within the storyline and the time frame. And it got to the point where I just said, screw it. I'm not going to bother with it. That's ruining the movie for me right now. Forget it. I'll just go with the flow. And I did, and it got better. But because of that, I can't give it a 4, 4.5. I'm going to have to. I'm going to give it a 3, like you did. So I really, it's a good movie. Just when you go in to see it, understand that some of you are going to get the timeline and it'll work for you, but it didn't work for me or April, I don't think. So I just, for that reason alone, I can't give it anything higher than a 3.
All right.
Good movie though. I wish they had fixed that timeline issue.
Well, I agree. It is a good movie, and I think that it's very educational for people that have no experience with that within their family as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it helps you understand drug addiction and the effects of the family. Please go see this movie. I think you'll enjoy it.
Me
Thank
too.
you very much for listening to us. And if you haven't already done so, please go out to hesaidshesAidmovies.com/subscribe and subscribe to the podcast. We really appreciate you doing that. And please send us your feedback. You can go out to our contact page and send us an email. We love hearing from you. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you at the movies.
We'll see you at the movies. And if you're in Atlanta, make sure you come out to the Springs Cinema and Tap House in Sandy Springs, Georgia. Only heated seats in the state.
See you at the movies.
See you at the movies.